to Bedtime Confessions. Welcome back to this week's Bedtime Confessions. In today's episode, we're going to talk about comparison and why comparison is the thief of joy. In today's society, comparing ourselves to social media, to other people, to our friends or family is so easy. And on some level, you might be comparing yourself a lot, not at all, but there's always a slight little comparison that you're making between yourself and other people's beauty, successes, health, anything. You can compare yourself to anything these days. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to explain to you why comparing yourself to someone else is just so baseless. Like there's no use for it. Because you're your own person. You're so unique that comparing yourself to someone else just does not make sense. If we really go down to the root of it, there's no reason why you would compare yourself to someone else because you're so unique in who you are that there's no variables that you can compare yourself with other people that would make sense in the overall big picture. If that didn't make sense, just stick with me. You'll understand what I mean in a second. Let me put some context here about why I feel like I'm somewhat qualified to talk about comparison, and that's because I have a twin sister. Here's a picture of me and my twin sister. And I don't know about you, but I think we look pretty damn similar. Some people have said that we look identical. This is the basis of everything that I'm going to tell you today, is that I have a PhD in comparison because my entire life I had a doppelganger. And I'm not saying this in a negative way. I love my twin sister and she's going to see this and she's going to be like, "Aw, you love me." But shut up. Most of my life, 18 years to be exact, 18, 19 years, we've lived together, right? So every single thing we did was together. Went on vacation together. We had friends in common. We had so many, our lives were so intertwined that it was very easy to fall into comparison. And of course, being raised by parents that had twins, they would compare us as well. They would do it either directly or indirectly, or it was just like our own selves. We just compete against each other in very subtle ways in our lives. And that's why I think that I'm very qualified to talk about the topic of comparison. So let me tell you a little bit more about how I perceive comparison in my life and how it impacted me. So again, from a young age, I had to share my life with a twin sister, so a doppelganger, someone that looked exactly like me. That meant that we went to the same schools, we sometimes shared the same friends, and of course, we were in the same grade at the same time. So that means that any success, achievements, hobbies, there would always be this underlying competition, at least from my end, to succeed or be better than my twin sister. And not in a way of like, oh, I want her to fail. It's more so of like, oh, I just want to be better because if we're so similar physically, I want to differentiate myself in terms of personality or in terms of successes. Or I didn't want my life to all be tied to her. And I didn't want us to just have one life that we shared. I wanted to have my own life and her own life. So naturally, in our family, they would always, like our parents, or especially our mom, would always say things like, oh, well, like, your twin has such good grades, or like, she's doing so well in this class. And I'd be like, okay, like, what about me? Or like, oh, like, look at your sister, she lost so much weight. And I'm like, okay, what about me? Like, there's always these these small ways that our mom would compare ourselves, and it would feed my mindset of comparison. So therefore, like, naturally being compared to my doppelganger, aka my twin, for like 18 plus, for my entire life basically, it naturally cultivated a comparison mindset in my mind. And on top of that, my mom was very adamant on us losing weight, and so she would naturally compare us to our friends that might be thinner, or she would give us some comments that would lead us to compare ourselves to like thinner people. And so naturally, I cultivated a very, very strong mindset around comparison. And that led me to being envious of some people, envious of friends, envious of family members, of so many people, okay? But the thing is, this comparison mindset did not bring any benefit to me. Like, it was pointless. Like, for me to compare myself to someone else didn't mean that I was going to get that thing in the first place. Or like, me being envious and jealous of someone just meant that I wanted what they had, but it would, like, me just complaining about it or comparing myself to what they have or to that person just didn't really make sense. So with that comparison mindset, it led me to a lot of toxic mindset or toxic thought patterns where I would always be envious of people but not doing anything to change my own life. And that's what I want to talk about. Like, comparison is the thief of joy, because at some point you will just end up looking at everyone else, what they have, and compare to what you don't have right now, and then be jealous, be sad, be angry that you don't have what they have. But the thing is, my first point of this video is that comparing yourself to someone else does not make sense, because they are so different from you. They have different genes. They live in a different environment. They have different social circles. They have different influences. They have different factors in their life that's going to affect the outcome of their life. You don't know if they're healthy. You don't know if they're actually happy. You don't know if they're fulfilled. All you're seeing is basically the highlight of their life. You're only seeing a sliver of what their life is actually about. You don't know 85% of the rest. So you're only seeing the good side, the good part, everything that you want, that you think you want. But the thing is, that's not all of it. And so comparing yourself to someone else just doesn't make sense. It's like comparing a cat to a dog. Like, you don't have the same variables to compare who's doing better or who's doing worse, because you're not starting from the same level. Even me and my twin sister, us comparing each other kind of makes sense, because we grew up in the same household. We grew up in the same environments. We had very, very, very similar genetics. We had very, very, very similar genetics. But then we don't have the same personality. We don't know how we grew up impacted the way our mindset was shaped. We don't have the same friends, so our social circles are influencing ourselves in different ways. Right now, she lives in Japan. I live in Canada. So we have different cultures that are influencing ourselves. So now, comparing myself to her in terms of achievement, intelligence, appearance, beauty, whatever it is, does not make sense whatsoever, because we are different people. We're so unique that even if we have such similar genetics, can't compare ourselves because it doesn't make sense. Like, the factors and the variables that are around us in our lives are impacting us in so many different ways that comparing ourselves just doesn't make sense, because our success, like, the only way comparing would make sense is if we did everything the same. Everything. Because then you can compare who's better at what, because we're doing the exact same thing. So now that's just a question of performance, right? But then you can't do that, because nobody's going to do exactly the same as you. And you're not going to do exactly the same as that other person. So comparing yourself to another person just hurts yourself. There's no basis for comparison, because you're not the same people. You're so unique that comparing yourself that someone else is thinner than you is just baseless. Because, okay, they're thinner. Are they healthier than you? You don't know. Maybe they're not healthy. Like, maybe mentally they're not feeling fulfilled. Maybe they want to gain weight. Like, you don't know what's going on in people's head. And using comparison to make you feel worse is the most toxic thing ever. Why? The only person you have to compete with is your higher self. You want to compete and be better than the person you were yesterday. You want to try to be better every single day, 1% better. that's the only person you can compare yourself to. You can only compare yourself to who you were yesterday, because you know exactly who that person is. You know exactly how they behaved. You know exactly where you're going. You know exactly what to do. You know that person so well because that's just you. That's the person you were yesterday. That's it. That's the only comparison that would make sense in this world, because everyone else, they're too different from you for you to have a good comparison. Because what they have is something that you could have, but it doesn't mean that they're more worthy. Like taking comparison in terms of worth, where it's like, oh, they're more successful, therefore they're more worthy. No. It doesn't mean that because someone else's success doesn't take away from your own worth. There's plentiful of worth on this earth. Everyone has worth just because they're here. Just because they're human, they're worthy, you know? So comparing yourself, saying like, oh, but they're more ahead, or they're more confident, they're more successful, they have more wealth, they have this and this and this. Yeah, but you have your life. You have your own skills, you have your own success, you have your own values, you have your own qualities, you have your own beauty, you have so much more that's just you, and that makes you worthy. So comparing yourself to someone else is useless. Take my word for it. Because as a twin, again, I am qualified to talk about this. That's a very long point. My second point of this video is that you comparing yourself to other people is actually a warning sign from your mind that you're not satisfied with who you are. Because comparing yourself is basically your brain trying to identify things that you want that is not yours yet. If I compared myself to someone else that didn't have the things that I actually wanted, then I wouldn't feel bad, you know, like I wouldn't compare in the first place, because I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm envious of this person and I want that, therefore I'm comparing how their life is amazing and my life's awful, and then, you know. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that comparing yourself just indicates that your brain wants what other people want, and it's just a coping mechanism to make you feel bad so that you can realize that you want what they have. In my own personal experience, I would often compare myself to people that were skinnier, for example. And that meant that internally, I wanted to be skinnier as a person myself. And on some level, I just was comparing so much to other people and seeing how other people were achieving, succeeding in their life. And I just felt miserable because I wasn't satisfied with who I was, and I was not putting the actions towards getting the life that I actually want. So comparing yourself to other people just means that you want more. Because if you were truly satisfied and content with the life that you have and the circumstances that you have, you wouldn't compare. You would be satisfied with who you are fully, and you wouldn't try to seek something else. You're slightly seeing other people as competition because they have what you don't have. That means that you're putting them on a pedestal right here, and you're putting yourself here, and you're viewing them, and you're comparing your life because you're like, okay, I'm here, but they're here, and I want to be here. How do I get there? And the easiest answer is you just move one day at a time, reaching for what you actually want and moving forward. And one day after one day, you try and reach those goals that you want. That's easy. When you start comparing yourself, stop yourself and ask yourself, okay, what am I comparing myself against? Why am I comparing myself? Do I want those things? Like, if I'm comparing myself to someone that's skinnier, does that mean that I'm not satisfied with my weight? If the answer is yes, then okay, let me find a solution to be skinnier. So then, once I'm skinnier, I wouldn't feel the need to compare myself and to put myself down because I have what I want. That's it. It's literally like comparison is literally what you want in another person. That's the simplest way to put it. Is you see something that you want in someone else's life and you want that, but instead of going forward and reaching that level of or trying to get that what they have, your brain uses comparison as a coping mechanism to put you down so that you have the motivation to go and get it. It kind of sounds counterintuitive because you feel bad when you're comparing yourself, and then you might ask me like, oh, but Corley, why would my brain make me feel bad if I'm comparing myself, and if I want that thing, wouldn't my brain motivate me to go and seek that? The answer is no, because your brain doesn't work like that. Your brain is going to make you feel bad and feel insecure so that you have the motivation to push yourself out of that state. And that means that when this is how your brain works. You compare yourself to someone, you see what they have and you want what they have, therefore you feel bad, okay? When you feel bad, your brain wants to get out of that negative emotional state because it's not pleasant to stay there. Therefore, your brain expects you to use that negative emotion to turn into motivation to try and seek pleasure. Because all your brain wants is pleasure, right? So if it signals you that you're not being in a pleasurable state, therefore sadness, then it would trigger you to be motivated to get out of that negative state into a state of pleasure. And therefore, that's between those two states of negative to pleasant, that's motivation. So let me put it this way again. So you compare yourself to someone, you want what they have, and you feel sad, okay? Or you feel negative or angry or jealous or whatever it is. Then this turns into motivation to try and seek what they have so that you can turn it into pleasure and be happy that you have what you have. That's comparison. Honestly, I don't know if this is true in science. This is just how my brain works and how I'm interpreting all this, but I think it kind of makes sense. Like, if you want something, your brain is going to make you feel sad so that you are determined to get that thing rather than stay sad. But some people just stay at that stage of just being sad and whining about not having that thing. Like, you're missing the point. Is you being sad means that you need to turn that sadness into motivation to go and seek that thing, because the thing that you're comparing yourself to, or the person you're comparing yourself to, is the person that you secretly want to be. And that doesn't mean you want to be all of them. It just means that some traits that they have is what you want. So go and get it. That's it. That's the whole point of this video. Go and get what you want. That's it, Last point in this video is that when you're comparing yourself to someone else, and I kind of mentioned this in the beginning of the conversation in the context part or whatever, but when you're comparing yourself to someone else, someone's life, someone's career, someone's success or whatever, you're only seeing a sliver of what their life is. You're seeing 5%, right? You're seeing the highlight, the success, the achievements. You might see some of the bad stuff, but again, the good outweighs the bad, right? And so sometimes you might think to yourself, oh, I want what they have. I want their life, right? If I could trade lives with someone, I might consider theirs, right? Imagine someone really successful, someone that's really rich and you want to be that wealthy, right? They have the wealth and the life that you want. Would you want to trade your life for their life, knowing that you would have to experience all of the bad stuff that came with that for you to reach their success or reach the state that you are envious about? I bet that knowing that you have to go through the bad part as well, you would probably say no. Because who wants to go through the bad part? But you need to understand that people who are successful, who are wealthy, who have what you want, there's a big chance that they had to go through a lot of bad stuff for them to reach that point. I'm not saying bad as in trauma or whatever. I'm saying bad as in they had to work on their health. They had to work on their mindset. They had to hustle to get where they are. And that means that if you were to trade lives with someone else that you're comparing yourself to, you need to inherit also the bad. So sometimes comparing yourself to the sliver of someone's life is not really productive because you're only seeing one small part. And even if you don't like your life right now, you feel like you've gone through so much bad stuff, a lot of other people have gone through shit as well. And that doesn't make their success more worthy than yours. It's just that you're biased to your own self. You can't think subjectively about someone else being better or someone else being worse because you don't know what it is to be in their shoes. Only shoes you know how it truly feels like to be in, I don't know if that sentence makes sense, but is yourself. You only know your own experience of this world. You can't ever fully understand someone else's experience. They could tell you in so much detail, and yet you wouldn't be able to grasp how it is to live in their shoes because you're just not them. So again, I'm coming back to this fact is that comparing yourself to someone else is just not productive because you have no idea what it is to be them. You have no idea what they had to go through to reach where they are at. And I don't think you would like it because you wouldn't be yourself. I think on some deep level, you really like who you are and you want to be you, Because like, let's say I were to trade lives with someone, I would want to be me, but in their lives, like their lifestyle. But I wouldn't want to be them because I want to be me. Like, I like me, right? Instead of comparing yourself and seeing everyone as superior as you, nourish yourself. Develop yourself because we are all works in progress. That means that we have so much capacity to change and shape ourselves into who we want. We can be skinnier, we can be stronger, we can be smarter, we can be more gifted, talented. Everything is taught and learned, and you can cultivate that. You can create a lifestyle and a life that you truly want. But stop focusing on everyone else and just start focusing inwards because you have everything here. You don't need that extra motivation outside. You don't need someone to tell you to move your ass and get out of bed and do and go and reach your goals. Like, stop settling. Stop being stuck in your circumstances. I know that we all don't have the same circumstances. So for me to say, like, just get out of bed and change your life is a little bold of me. But I think on all levels, we can make something about it. We can do something about it. You can change your circumstances in small ways and succeed. I don't think there's a limit in this world. As long as you have the will and the determination, you can do what you want to do. It just takes a little bit of work. And that work can be mental, physical, whatever it is, but you can go after your dreams. Because this world is so abundant. It's just your mind. Your mind is the only thing that's holding you back. So please change your mind. Stop comparing yourself. Comparing yourself is useless. It's literally the thief of joy. Because listen closely to this. I'm going to get closer so that you hear me right. While you're comparing yourself to everyone else, everyone out there is chasing their dreams. Do you want to be behind? I don't think so. So get out of bed and go follow your dreams because you can. You're capable. Stop comparing. It's not worthy. Someone's success and someone's beauty doesn't take away your own beauty. There's not a limit on beauty or on success or on wealth on this earth. That means that if someone has more of it, it doesn't mean that you can get less of it. No, it doesn't work like this. It's like 100% is available to you, 100% is available to them, 100% is available to me, to other people, but you get to utilize that 100%. So right now, if you're utilizing 40%, let's switch that to 100%. See, if you had like a control panel of your life where you had wealth, health, longevity, beauty, attraction, whatever it is, just turn all the knobs to 100%, like visually, turn everything to 100% so that you live your life at 100% instead of letting other people's successes, achievement, or whatever they're putting out there blind you from your own potential. Don't compare yourself because it's useless, because you're so unique that it doesn't make sense to be compared to. You can shape the life that you want. Okay, guys, this video is way too long. I'm sorry, I rambled way too much, and I hope it made sense somehow, and that my little rant of comparison affected you deeply so that you stop comparing yourself, because literally, I don't want that for you. Aside from that, I'm gonna let you go to bed. I don't know why I did that, but and I will see you in the next video. Bye.